Welcome back to episode 25.
What's up, shitbags?
You actually have my little note up there now.
I know I changed it. I stopped messing with you. I didn't want to mess with you the last one. It didn't work as well as I wanted to. I was hoping you just blurt it out. Maybe I'll try some F-bomb or something up there in the future. See, but you'd say that without hesitation.
That's fine. I'm pretty good at that.
That is what we're good at. We're just good at being explicit.
I'm good at like spilling shit out that I just think and it doesn't make sense. So
yeah, fucks up punctuation. But anyway, welcome back. Episode 25. Quarter of the way to 100. It seems like each time's a milestone, but it really is. So it's fantastic. We're beyond excited to be here. It's just great to keep going with it and meeting these great people and
bullshit along the way.
So. Exactly. And that's it. I mean, thanks to everybody. Everybody knows them. Show them some love. Jobtown Taylor's crew first.
Check them out. Buy some shit.
Wouldn't be here without them. So, but now that we got that out of the way and we can stop talking and keep this under 2 minutes of us wasting time, let's bring in Andy, the man of the hour. Andy, how's it going?
Great, man. How about you guys?
Good.
Great.
Good.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining us. So, Andy, why don't you give a little introduction about yourself? Tell everybody who you are.
So, Andy Plofkin, I'm the director of sales for a company called Safe Fleet, which is the parent company to Elkhart Brass, Foam Pro, ROM, and Fire Research Corporation. Oversee a team of 7 guys throughout the country that go out and do the flows in the field or lighting upgrades, different things, whatever it may be. Primary responsibility is overseeing all of distribution throughout the United States. Helping distribution end users or even OEMs try to get our product spec'd or installed or assistance along those lines. So, also fireman at Greenville Fire Protection District in Southern Illinois. Been with them now for about 4 or 5 years, but I'm on my 42nd year in the fire service between Connecticut, Indiana, and Illinois.
Damn, that's awesome.
Yep.
Cool.
That's so cool to hear. So you're gonna have lots of great knowledge to share and give for all the new people. So it's gonna be great.
We'll see.
Yeah, I know. Times have changed. That's been a common thread, a common occurrence that we talk about on here when we bring even some newer people into it. It's still times have changed in the last 5 years. I can't imagine 41 years. So it'll be cool to see what similarities and what differences we got.
Yep. Yeah, I can honestly say I rode the rear step for 3 years before they kicked us off. So yeah, I'm part of that generation, I guess, is the best way to put it. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yep. So yeah, our first generic question for you: where did you discover your passion for training?
So it really came about as far as the education of the fire service through the different jobs that I've had. I've worked for, I think I'm at 4 manufacturers, and I was vice president of a dealership for 10 years, where I worked on both sides of the fence, I guess. But the thing for me has always been what I call the light bulb moment, where someone gets exactly what I'm trying to portray to them as far as, whether it's flows, whether it's, lighting, whether it's monitors, whether it's whatever. It's a matter that they get what I'm trying to convey to them. And my thing has always been the training aspect of it builds a customer for life. And I still have people that call me from the first job that I ever had in the industry, which was On Spot, the automatic tire chains. And they'll ask me a question about a part or ask me a question about something because, that goes all the way back to early in my thing. But I think also the other thing would be a very strong start with my first fire department in Connecticut. We trained every Thursday night. Monthly meeting was the first Tuesday, and then we also did some weekend training. So as I got further to the Midwest, it started to fall off a little bit, where it would be once a month. It wouldn't be every week. So just a little bit different of an animal there. And, moving from the East Coast to the Midwest was a big change. So,
yeah, once a week, that's impressive. I mean, Brent and I both started volunteering. Yeah, it's usually 2-3 times a month max is what you see on a lot of departments around us and across the nation. It's just nobody's got the time. So being able to have that once a week and even more, you know, with the weekend trainings, that's awesome. That's great dedication.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the East Coast was very different. That I'm glad I started there, only because, you know, we would parade on weekends also. So you would have, you know, all summer you'd be at a county fair or somewhere like that, Class A uniform, marching in the street, or, you know, getting your rig ready to go for a weekend parade or the state convention or whatever it was.
Oh.
So, and that fire department, Nichols Fire Department, they've actually had a volunteer sleep on night crew since 1942. And that was basically when the soldiers went overseas, they wanted people there to protect the community on the fire service side. So they actually had a bunk room, and I actually got to live there for 6 years. So it was pretty cool.
Wow.
Not a place. Yeah, be first out. It was awesome. Good group of guys. Awesome. Yeah, and 12 members of my family have been on that fire department. So then, so I mean, I really started about 5-6 years old. My dad became a volunteer, and then he moved up to lieutenant. My brother's been chief there. My uncle's been chief. My mom was a commissioner and then a tax collector. So it was pretty wild. You know, it's been a family thing, and I guess that foundation is what started me to get involved and really want to learn, I guess. A lot of changes were going on as I was joining the fire service, you know, from belt mounted regulator to mask mounted, and, you know, 3/4 boots and coats, and going from that to full PPE with bunker pants and stuff. And I can remember having my bunker pants next to my bunk. You know, now you couldn't even bring it to the firehouse. You know, it was just different times.
Yeah, big sign right by any of the doors near the common areas. That's
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's
that's
definitely awesome. And seeing that whole evolution is pretty interesting to see where it's all gone. So
yeah. Well, I mean, still going back to kind of that area when you first got started, what piece of advice were you given on day one that has stuck with you?
I think the biggest thing is to understand it deeper. A lot of people can read something, but people don't understand it. I'm more of a hands-on guy. I like to take things apart and put them back together. Mechanical aspect of it to get a better understanding of what's going on, I guess, behind the curtain. And, you know, that's where I think I try to dig in deeper, even today, you know, that I want to know and understand what makes something tick, so that allows me to educate the consumer a little bit better as to what's going on. You know, I was just at a department up in Chicagoland this past week, and, you know, they were having a problem with a flow meter. We took the whole side panel off. I'm not afraid to do that. So, you know, the biggest thing is digging in deeper. And I think today's youth, or the people that are joining the fire service today, have such a leg up, because the internet is good, bad, and different, whatever it is, the technology's out there, the information is out there to get a better, you know, handle on it. And that's huge. Where I had to go through the manual, or, you know, fire engineering, fire apparatus, whatever it may be, to get a better handle on what's going on, to be able to do that. So that's huge. That if it's out there, if you want to find it, and, you know, vet it. The biggest thing is to vet it once you find it. So there is not one thing for all. You got to make what works for you, and dig deeper.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting having the internet at your fingers and all the answers. It's been weird that you brought it up, because like the last couple of weeks, I've started noticing more how, like you said, good, bad, or different, whatever. It seems like it's become a conversation killer. In terms, not like that everybody's sitting there on there, but like we'll be sitting either at the kitchen table, or I've noticed it out in public with family and friends a lot, and you start talking about a conversation, and maybe it's like an opinion, or someone's like, no, I think this is going on, and no, I think this is going on, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, it'd be good back and forth, and then someone just goes, well, let's Google it, and then like pull it up, you get the answer, and then it's done, and you're like, huh, like. It's been weird that I've been noticing that, because I'm like, is that good? Is that bad? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it's funny. I've had a job in purchasing before, with one of the companies that I was involved in. And there was something called, if I had to source something and I was sourcing aluminum castings or whatever it may be, there was something called the Thomas Register. The Thomas Register had every manufacturer that book was like 6 feet wide. It was like one of those ones you'd see at a parts counter of an old school parts, a auto parts store. And I'd have to go in there and find everything, where today I could just type in, aluminum casting and find, 75 people within 10 miles of me. So it's a different animal,
Yeah, for sure.
And the other thing is technology and education has advanced for people that, when I started, my first phone was a bag phone. And, everyone's like, what the hell is a bag phone? Well, the bag phone was sitting between you and the seats. And the boss said, don't call on it unless it's an emergency, because it's like $1.25 a minute. So, and it was, for me, it was constantly going up to a payphone somewhere and calling into the office. And then I got a pager, and all that stuff. But you go to a trade show now, and it's pretty cool. You can, text someone or answer someone very quickly. But I can remember standing in line, 10 payphones, 10 deep, waiting to call my office on a break at a trade show. And, you just don't see that anymore. You don't see a payphone anymore.
No,
So it's totally different, but the ability to get, what I call the Walmart principle of instant gratification, that you can go out and buy something and make something happen very, very quickly, that the speed of business has really picked up when it comes down to that. But, the old days was crazy that, it took forever to do something and carry around, 72 pounds of catalogs and whatever. Now, I just got this business card that everybody thinks is the coolest thing since sliced bread. It's a tap card. That's called a Popple card, that I could walk up to someone's iPhone and tap it, and all my contact information goes right into their phone.
Yeah.
You're like, everyone's like, wow, I want that. Boom, boom, boom. And you're tapping people, giving them information.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It really is.
That's awesome.
It's coming a long way.
Yes, it is.
Very much so.
Yep.
Next one we got for you. What conference or training do you think every new firefighter should try to attend?
So for me, I'm more of a micro conference person, not to take anything away from FDIC, but I think they're trying at such a higher level. And you see David Rhodes is even talking about that these micro conferences where you're going to get a lot more out of it. By, one of the ones I do, Oath Keepers, I think is a great conference because it's only 100 students. One day you do truck work, the next day you do engine, and then, you flip-flop. So you're doing truck and engine discipline at that, and been with them 7-8 years now, and it's capturing everything, but it's putting in a full 8-hour day, and any of the nozzle forward stuff that Aaron Fields is doing, or any of these other guys. But the smaller conferences really bring a lot to the table, as long as it's a good group of people that are out there to bring it together. They just had the firemanship conference up in Aurora. I was up there for a couple days. Great conference, great group of people brought in there. And, you can really figure out someone very quickly by if they stay on the tour. You know what I mean? That you get a guy that comes on and he's gone within a month or two. He didn't make it. You know what I mean? As far as an instructor or something along those lines, that you've got a lot of great people out there right now committing to the fire service and putting the time in. Someone like Steve Robertson, I'm working with him this weekend at the Jimmy Ellis training that that's why I'm on the road now to go ahead and be a part of that. And, Jimmy Ellis was one of the guys that was on the tour with different guys, whether it was at Bowling Green or down in Pensacola at Kurt Isaacson's stuff. And that's where I met Jimmy before he passed away a couple of years ago. And, here, giving back to his family and all that, it means a lot. And he became a personal friend. So it definitely, I'm bringing it back to that to help that out. But there's quite a few regional conferences. You don't have to go far within the regions to find them, especially the Midwest puts on quite a few good ones. And then, any of the Kurt Isaacson stuff that he does is pretty well vetted out. and lectures and hands-on. I would definitely try and do both of those to where you're getting the benefit of it and getting to sit down and listen to somebody. And my plan is to be Friday listening to the different lectures, because I get to pick up things as I'm out there also. In order to go out and do what I do, I have to listen to other people and attend their classes and benefit from it. And no 2 days for me are ever the same. So that's the best part about the job. So
that's right. It's always changing.
Yes.
Yeah. I like these micro conferences like yours. You get more reps, especially if you go hands-on. You get a lot more reps, and I think they get a lot more personal with the instructors.
Yep.
I think that goes a long way. So
100%.
they can always contact them at a later date with questions. I mean, we did it all the time.
Yeah.
If you're going to your department, you kind of forgot how one step or two, you can kind of give them a call and they'll talk you through it again. So
yeah, and I think the Fools do a great
beneficial
job. I mean, that's where we met, right? At the old-fashioned Fools thing was just because, being able to be a part of that and the hands-on training, especially that they're doing at Old Fashioned or Brew City. I've been able to attend both of those over the years and get to interact with great people there. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we talked about it before. I think we came already with like 5 or 6 instructors from MAFC. We were down in Metro Atlanta, and just contact me, like he said. For us, it was for the podcast, but I know I've reached out to 2 of them with other questions that just going through the job, be like, holy shit, actually, I have a contact for that. Like I can reach out and get an answer. So yeah, it's cool to go to those little ones and meet those people and get that connection.
Definitely.
The last of our generic questions that we have that we ask for everybody has no explanation for you. So you take this however you want it. That's why it became one of our favorites. And it is, why are we here?
I feel, why are we here on the podcast? Why are we here to do our job? Why are we here for anything? You said take it wherever I want it.
Exactly.
Yep. First thing that comes to mind.
I think the biggest thing is, for what you're trying to do and the people that I've seen that you've had on here before is to educate the younger generation. You look at New Dog's Old Tricks, that it's trying to educate that younger generation that's coming up next. I hate to say it, but I'm on that downhill curve. I can see the end of the rainbow, the end of the tunnel, call it what you want. I mean, I'm going to be 60 in March, and been around in this thing for many, many years. And I think the biggest thing is leave it better than I found it. And that's what I try to do. That's why I drive, 40, 50,000 miles a year, 120, 140 nights a year in a hotel to be with people and educate them. And, it's funny. I took a test probably when I was in my 20s back in Connecticut to be on a department. My brother went that route where he was career, assistant chief career, and now he's an assistant chief again for another department after he retired from one. But I look at it that I have such a broad span of people that I can interact with, and I think the biggest thing is taking that back to them to educate them. And obviously I'm more of a water guy, because I've worked for 2 different nozzle manufacturers over the war, over my tour, over my career, that it was always educating on the hydraulics aspect of it. And that is probably one of the least known things in the fire service is, water delivery, the correct pump pressures, whatever it is. On an annual basis, I can name 5-10 departments on my hand that are doing it right. And yet I go into places and nothing's burning when I show up there. I tell them, but there's a better way to do it, right? Get the GPMs up, get the pressure down, and go ahead and do what needs to be done to make it work. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that we're all here to make it better. And there's been a lot of that the last probably 5 to 7 years of that constant push. As Rob Fisher says, 10 pounds of pressure 100% of the time just keeps it moving along. And it's really taken off, especially water delivery, the new hose, the new, different types of nozzles, the refresh of what we did, the other companies, the refresh of their nozzles really brought it to the forefront, where we've all come full circle from 100 psi to now we're back to 50 psi and smoothbore nozzles, and that's where everybody's landing right now, and things are happening. So and I really thought we would have hit a plateau probably about 2 years ago, but it just continues to go and go. And Brian Brush said it best when he said that people started taking more pictures of nozzles on front bumpers than they did of helmets or Halligan bars or whatever it may be. That people became very proud of the nozzle and the colors and everything else. That you see a lot of that. That people are out there promoting what they've got, and the hose package, the nozzle, that ensemble together really has come to the forefront. And it's I'm glad I'm a part of it, to be honest. That I'm blessed to do what I do and get out there and help people and make a difference. It's awesome when someone hits me up and like, man, this really is working great now, or whatever it may be. Normally you only hear bad things, but lately, the last couple of years, it's been a lot of good stuff. So
good.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's a positive thing about social media, is that everyone kind of posts their thing and the information gets out there rapidly. Like the right information if you look for it. And that's kind of creating change in the United States as a fire service more faster than it would without it. So
yeah, and I think the other thing that social media does for people is allow them to feel personable with you before you even get in the door. When I walk in a department or something, they're not like a couple dogs sniffing me out. They know I've been where I've been and what I've done, and they're like, yeah, hey man, how are you, or whatever. And I'm like, okay, remind me who you are again. It's just it's one of those things, because you meet so many people in the process, and you develop relationships, and it's good. It really is, that you can collaborate together. And our team gets together once a year, and we get together as a group with our whole the RSMs and our managers, and we spend a week together, and it's almost like the firehouse, because we're cooking or we're eating together, we're hanging out, and we're all collaborating on what are we seeing, because some people are doing something in the East Coast and the West Coast, but the Midwest hasn't caught on, or what are you seeing and what's happening? And communication is critical when it comes to that. So
for sure. Great. So yeah, that's the end of our generic questions for you. So now we got some more personalized dig into your work life and the stuff that you have a good passion for. But first is, how'd you get started with sales in the fire service and your manufacturing, kind of all your career path?
So it really started with OnSpot, where the company, the automatic tire chain company, the owner was about a half a mile from my house, and our department was putting a set of chains on our 64 Maxim, and he came up there and he was helping out, and I was up there. I mean, we were fortunate, we had a Hetra lift system, so we could raise the truck up and put the chains on and do that. And I went up there and helped the mechanic that was doing the install, and the guy said to me, well, you ever thought about coming, doing a different line of work or whatever? I think I was roofing at that time for one of my buddies, and out of college. And I'm like, no, I don't know. He said, well, why don't you come by the house? And went there, 2 beers at his kitchen table, and he hired me. So it was,
that's the interview right there.
That was a great interview, right?
Yeah.
So we visited and whatever. And actually that gentleman, Pat Fryer, he is the commissioner of the department that I was on in Connecticut. After he retired, he wanted to give back also and do that. But he taught me a great deal of stuff, to remember numbers. Everyone's like, how do you remember all the numbers that you do? Whether it's flows or whether it's this or whether it's that. And he just taught me that was important. So my mind works differently. I can visualize and remember stuff. I don't know how I do it. It just happens. But it's one of those things that someone's like, how the hell do you remember that? Right.
Yeah.
So one of my guys calls me Filehead Fred. It's just like, I just remember stuff that, the ordinary person, I guess, doesn't. But anyway, he hired me, and that took me from a position of, I started a warehouse, then I started a manufacturing facility, and then from there I got into sales. So I was actually in purchasing before I went to sales, and it was just a natural, gravitation. But it's funny, I've never really had to sell. I've just had to educate, and an educated consumer will gravitate to you to go ahead and purchase the products. Believe me, I've lost deals, and it's fine. It is what it is. I'm not there to force something, on someone. It's like, hey, what works best for you? And I'm here to show you what my wares do and how they do it. And, go ahead and make your best decision. But it's always an education for me to educate that consumer and take it from there. It's never really been a total sales job. I've never had a commission sales job. It's always been a bonus program or something like that. I've always been paid a salary, and there was a bonus associated with it if you had hit this astronomical number. So, but that's awesome. It's been the way that I prefer it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Seeing you with one of your instructions when you came down to Old Fashioned Fools, like, it is kind of funny. I remember thinking like that you were a salesman, but not thinking that during the presentation, like, because you weren't trying to sell. You were talking about flow there, but you could tell you had obviously you had Elkhart brass stuff in there, but you're like sitting there learning, and that's exactly like you said. You're just taking it all in and learning it, and then the end of the day, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, he's a salesman. Like, you don't even think about it.
Actually, we always say I'm not a salesman because I'm a director of sales. You physically can never buy something from me as a manufacturer.
You did. Yeah, that's right. You did make that on there. You said that was your opening pitch. That's right.
Yep.
You remember that.
Yep.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Still talking about the sales job. What's your favorite part about traveling for your job?
I think it's every day being different, and it's making a difference, right? Right now, we're in the season of flow. So every one of my guys and myself are like on this hamster wheel, right? We're just constantly grinding, going from here to there, just going and visiting departments, setting up schedules, whatever it is. People don't realize that, someone in my position or my guys, we set our own schedule. We set our own everything, that we're going out and making a difference, that you are in charge of every hotel reservation, every airline ticket, everything. And, that takes time. So getting out there and making that happen. But I mean, for me, every time I walk in a firehouse, I hate to say it, but I almost feel like I'm at home, right? I get to go there, have a cup of coffee, BS with the guys, get to interact, look and see what they're doing, how they're doing it. And a lot of times I'll even bring that back to my department of, man, I saw this was excellent, and I'm a buff too. I mean, I've owned antique fire apparatus. I've been looking for a Maxim fire apparatus extinguisher for probably 7 to 10 years. And there was a guy on my route that had one that was from probably 60s that I picked up yesterday on my way. And that guy had
cool
rigs and all kinds of stuff. And I spent an hour there visiting with him. But the first thing is, when I walk in a station, I look over their equipment. I'm like, where's your old stuff? I want to see your old things, see the old rigs and get a better understanding for what they're trying to do and how, I can learn from the event. It's funny. People say, oh, I learned from you. Well, I learned from them also. It's a two-way street, but it's funny. I've done enough of these that, or a live event where I always say this 14 steps thing. I can tell you right now, it's 14 steps from the bed to the toilet in every hotel that I stay in. And, it's the same thing here where I'm at. It's constant, and it's, I don't know, as we were talking before we jumped on, that when COVID hit, they locked us down for 3 months, and I didn't get to travel for 3 months, and it was weird just being home. I mean, I realized that my wife and I can retire someday and spend a lot of time with her and get, and be able to survive, because you're so used to coming home, unpacking, doing wash, she does the wash, gets everything going, and then everything's ready to go the next week or whatever it may be. And it's just that constant change that I guess, it keeps you alert or whatever it is. It's hard. I mean, I'll be the first to admit it. My first trip after the 90 days of being off, I ended up going to one of the conferences down in Pensacola Beach, drove 11 hours, and I was like, holy crap, that hurts. It's being able to do that consistently, every week or whatever takes a lot. And it wears on you over time, It's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. I can tell you that. And it's, you got to have a good home life to have a good road life. I tell my guys that, make sure you take the time to visit with the kids or do whatever. And today's generation has it much better. I can remember talking with my two daughters on the phone about school or their, whatever sports they were doing, where today you can FaceTime your kid and do something with them where, I didn't have that luxury. It was just a phone call or visiting. But one of the smartest things I did was took my daughters to work with me when they were very young, and they're 9, 11 years old, and the people there explained that what I did made a difference, and it helped people, it saved lives, it did whatever, that resonated with them, that they never had a problem with it. And I worked for MSA at one time, and I remember bringing home my SCBA, and they're wearing it and running around the house and, thermal imaging camera, checking things out or doing whatever. And they still remember that today. So it's, I don't want to say it's a family thing, but it is to a point that they've got to invest in what you're doing too, because it does take time away. And, it's 24/7. I mean, I get calls on holidays, I get calls on weekends, I get calls at all times, and I do stuff. And that certainly lends itself to that you've got to be able to go ahead and commit to the time to be able to do that. So
hats off to you. I couldn't take a phone call that much.
it's and I mean, I'll text, I'll instant message, I'll do all kinds of different things, whatever. But I'm more of a talk. Let's talk through this. Send me a picture. A picture's worth 1,000 words to me, especially. I was working with a guy today on a LED upgrade on his rig, and it was like, send me a couple pictures so I can understand what you're trying to do. And that's huge. Or a nozzle, a guy had he had a bail that was, the screw was out of it or whatever. Okay, you need this, this, and this. And that makes it super easy to assist people and do that.
For sure.
It's the best part of the job.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Now kind of diving into your passion and your t-shirt. I don't think you've shown the t-shirt on here. You showed it to us, but
water always wins.
I like
perfect.
it.
So I mean, right along that, our question is, what should every new firefighter understand about hose lines and flow? Like real basic, they walking in the door, what should they know?
That all hose is not right and all nozzles are not right. Everything has to be paired today, especially when you go to low pressure. When you go to 50 PSI, you have to get it right. You cannot take 100 PSI hose and put it on a 50 PSI nozzle and expect it to work. So it's important that you understand what it is. The smooth bore, combi tip debate, whatever. It's whatever works for that department. Who's pushing what or whatever. I prefer to see a smooth bore on one cross lay and a combi tip on the other. You got options, right? So you give that ability for the person to do that, but go out, flow, and understand what the capabilities of the nozzle are. Understand how it works. Understand what your current nozzles do, and to do a valid inspection on them. That's one thing I'm doing when I'm out, is looking at people's nozzles they currently have on the rig, because they're bringing me in because it's not because they bought nozzles last year. They bought them 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And I'm looking for screws missing. I'm looking for, spinning teeth. I'm looking for broken this, broken that. I can't tell you how many times I find screws missing out of a nozzle that they had no clue. And, one of the things I certainly talk about is that we need our costume to be able to go in the door, right? But we also need an SCBA. The other thing is fire doesn't go out without water, right? You can't blow it out. You got to go in there and be able to put water on it. And that nozzle needs to function every time. And whether it's a broken bail, whether it's a broken this, broken that, I'm like, you got to inspect those just like you do your SCBA. When you come on tour, whatever it may be, get an understanding of what it takes to make that work. And then hose, we did a thing on Vote GPM of how many people are doing an NFPA 1962 flow test. Go out there and flow test your nozzles. If you got smooth bores, all it takes is a pitot gauge. If it's a combi tip, you need a pressure gauge or you need a flow meter. Go out there and do it. There are so many things going on behind a pump panel that people don't know that you could be off by 10, 20, 30 pounds and barely know it, because you don't know what it should feel like until you get it right the first time. And the other thing is with the hose that's 10 plus years old, or even some in that 7 range, they're starting to see delamination of it. The department I was at last week up in Chicagoland, they had some 2.5 that was delaminated, and you could see it. It was on the bottom lay of a 2.5, and it was all puckered. And I mean, you touched in there and it had already separated from the jacket. So it was, like, wow, that's not good, guys. We got to get that out of there. But again, it's funny. I can walk into a department and do a 360 on it and on the rig. And I'm like, where's the stream shaper? Where's this? Where's that? How come you don't have this? How come you don't have that? Oh, I didn't think about that. Right.
Yeah.
It's just the little things that can make such a huge impact on it. But I think for younger firefighters is getting to understand the flow, the ability to move and flow, because as soon as you start to shut down, what's going to happen? It's going to start to rebound. Right.
It's going to heat up.
That's when things are going to start to get bad again. And, so many people went the 15, 16s route and never knew why, whether it was following FDNY or whatever it is. That has all come back now to where so many people are doing 7/8. It's the number one, tip that's sold, or a 160 at 50 combi tip. And, trying to get into that arena. It makes it so much easier, that 59-pound reaction force. You can move and flow regardless of your size. So pretty simple.
Yeah, for the department I am at now, we just changed our stuff to Elkhart brass 2 years ago.
Yep.
But we had combination high pressure lines, and wow, what a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started, and now it's way different. I love the low pressure hose and smooth bore nozzles.
And it's getting it right and having the right hose with it. Like I said initially, is that if you don't have the 50 PSI thicker jacketed hose, it's not going to feel right in your hand. And you're going to be fighting a lot more side reaction force where, I always equate it. It needs to feel like a pool noodle in your hand where it's linear.
Yep.
If it feels like a snake in your hand, something's not right.
Or it crimps off.
Yeah. Or it kinks on.
Does its own thing. Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're seeing a lot more people start to investigate 2-inch hose, 2 1/4, getting that less drag weight and moving, being able to be more maneuverable with a higher flow line, whether it's, 240 gallon a minute, 265, but you're dropping the water weight that you're moving around, dragging around, whether it's from a 2.5 to 2 inches, 80 pounds less per 100-foot drag weight. So that's huge. The ability to be maneuverable with that big of a line is important, especially on the bigger residences that we're running into, the McMansions or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants that bigger palace, and makes it more challenging for us once we get in the door.
For sure.
Absolutely. Awesome. That's real good information. Lots of good stuff there. Last question before we go into our closing questions, which closing questions are going to be a question from our last guest, Corey. And then it is going to be your job to come up with a question for our next guest, which is Nick Peppard. So you should be able to come up with something good for Nick, I think.
We'll see.
But so you got a little bit of time to think that. I like to throw it in there. But the last question is one that was sent in. So thank you. Send in questions, people.
Sending questions. I'm not
This question was sent in by all of our great friend, mentor, and former guest on the podcast, BJ Breacher. So BJ says, orange zest or orange wedge in an old fashioned?
Oh my, it's zest, 100%. Now, if I was in Wisconsin, it would be an orange slice, right? You think of the old-fashioned Fool's challenge coin, that is a slice. That is not a zest. See?
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Big weight. It's like a boat anchor.
Yeah. Good old George Anitsberg got me one of those.
Yeah, baby.
Good old George. Yeah. So no, it's definitely a zest is what I would prefer. And then I would say some Reagan's Blood Orange bitters to go with that. So it would be good.
That was a great added bonus to the class. That was, and it was just great. The timing, Old Fashioned Fools, you came with Old Fashioned Flow. It was that was great. Do you have your little briefcase with you?
Yeah, sitting down in the truck.
Oh God, that's awesome. That was an amazing old fashioned. I have been trying to make anything that replicates it at home, and I just it's not the same. It's not the same.
I'll hook you up, bro. You can just hit me up, and I'll send you the ingredients for it.
I will take you up on that. That's awesome.
It's funny. I don't know how I ended up being the old fashioned guy, but all of a sudden it was just like I ended up going to for a month. I was at these different whatevers, and I ended up, all right, I want to try this old fashioned. Then I tried this old fashioned. Then I tried another one, but I ended up in Columbus, Ohio, and there was a bar there called the Old Fashioned, and it was in this. I think it was in the Marriott, maybe, I don't know, whatever. But I'm there, and this guy made a very good old fashioned, and I'm like, all right, what's your secret? And there was only 5 people in the bar. And he's like, well, it has to do with the simple syrup, and went through that whole process of how he makes his simple syrup. And I'm like, all right. So boom, log that. And then took a few other things, and I actually started adding, different stuff, whether it was Grand Marnier or Rosé Vermouth. And then I had to try 7 different vermouths, and I found ones that I really like that are fruity, and give it this and give it that. And then I ended up making this, Chris Martin, he ended up making a label, and it was called the Brassworks Simple Syrup. And he put my little initials in there with it.
My God.
It was my
That's
thing.
awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. So we had some labels made, I think, by Sticker Mule or something, and we ended up doing some of those bottles and whatever. But yeah, it just caught on, and then people, wanted to talk about this or talk about that, and it's funny, you end up going to an event, and then I become almost like an instant bartender. And it was funny. I was at one of the Fire Nuggets events in South Bend, and we were at the DoubleTree there, which has this huge atrium in the center of it. And the bar closed, I don't know, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. And some guy's like, man, I could really go for an old fashioned. I said, hold on. So I pull out the case, and we set up this pop-up bar right in the middle of this atrium, and we're there till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and just made a bunch of old fashions and had a great time. And I just saw one of the guys from that came from California or something, and he was like, man, that was the best. It just, I don't know, it's making memories. I guess that's what it is. And we'll sit there and talk about all kinds of different things or whatever it is, but it's cool. It is. It really is. And yeah, so yeah,
that's awesome. It was a great time. It was a good conversation piece. We remembered it a lot. So
great.
That's awesome.
Great.
Well, yeah, that wraps up all of our kind of main questions. Now we just got the last 2 for you, and then the ending will be kind of all up to you. So whatever you want to share, any shout outs or anything. But before that, we got our question from our previous guest, Corey, and it's regarding your traveling for work. When we had him on, we talked about the last time we see you were just about to go to London for the World High Rise Conference.
Yeah.
And so his question is, other than America, where is the next best place to be a firefighter?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'll tell you, London was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Besides the low flows, unofficially they let me drive one of their rigs. So that was cool to be on the right side and do that. But just
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, just the way
they read the left seat over there. That's like
yeah. It was different, and the way their rigs are laid out with there's no real hose, beds or lays or anything. Everything's donut rolls, and they roll it out. But that was interesting to see how they do different. Whatever it is they wear, their gear is much lighter, and it's a much soupier, wetter environment. What I remember is we went into a couple burn cans because we were there for 2 days to be able to do some live fire. And we went into this burn can that was 2, shipboard containers wide, and then one either side deep. And they were burning, they were burning like 15 sheets of OSB. And it was hot. And I mean, you've got a line that's the size of my thumb, going in there, flowing like 45 gallons a minute or something. And they're like, missed it, and I'm like, missed it? What the hell are you talking about? And what they're doing is they're gas cooling. So it was very different to be in that environment. I remember I had on a pair of super gloves, which are old gloves. Everybody's into all these now, the MK Ultra and all this other stuff. But my super gloves swelled up and they look like baseball mitts because there was so much moisture in the environment that I took them out, and I was just like, holy cow, those like oven mitts or something. It really got super big, and I felt moisture. I felt probably the wettest I've felt in a fire in a long time. It was different that way, but just the way they go about stuff, the camaraderie there, I think, and I can only express that because that's the only other place I've really been besides America. I mean, I've been to Canada a couple times. They're very similar to what we do. But it was interesting to interact with them on a different level. Their SCBA are different, how they work and how they inspect them, do different things that way. So it was very, very regimented the way that you go through stuff. And I was very surprised that we ended up going into this large, what I would call a commercial style structure, that they made us wear like an N95 mask when we were just doing a walkthrough. And I'm like, bro, it's dust, it's nothing, it's not gonna whatever. And then the other thing is once we were doing the live fire, they were like, all right, everybody go on air. And we're standing outside like 50 feet away. I'm like, what? I'll be out of here by the time I get ready to go in. Right. So it was different. And we all had on our leathers, myself, Jerry, and Stretch, and it was different. Everybody wanted to try our helmets on. So I certainly wouldn't wear their helmets. I can tell you that. Absolutely.
No way.
You want to try it on? Nope, I'm good.
No. Yeah, that was the first thing. But everybody wanted to try on, our leathers and wear them and take pictures and do that. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But became friends with a couple guys there, and it was fun. It was fun. Gerard Mann and Steve from Australia, they ended up in Chicago, probably about right around FDIC, and got to I was doing a monitor install on a Chicago fireboat, and they ended up coming down and hanging out with me for a little bit, and then the Marine Division took us out for a ride in the canal and stuff, and it was awesome for them. They were just giddy about the whole thing. It was cool, but they're a good group of guys, and I guess you can be a fireman anywhere, but you got to have that passion, right? Yeah. And that's what you got to look for to go to somewhere and be a part of an environment that there is passion. I think that's the biggest thing to do that, and always want to be the best to get to that point. And you saw that over there, that everybody was trying to make it better. Awesome. And what can we do different, or what can we try, or whatever. And we flowed smooth bars, we flowed low pressure, we flowed high pressure, we flowed everything. So it was different, but it was fun. So yeah, I would say that would be my thing.
Do they work like the same schedules that you see around here, or do they work like the same kind of schedules, like 48s, 24s, or do they kind of?
I believe it was 24 48s from what I recall, based on the guys that were there and saying they were taking days off. But they can do 45 gallons a minute because the buildings are so different than what we have. You're talking 18-inch thick walls made out of block, and they still build them the same way today. I mean, I was able to sit in a window and I saw a wall on either side of me when I was sitting in a pub, you know. The other thing I guess would drive me there would be Guinness, because I love Guinness. So that would get me over there, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
heck yeah. So no, it was they'll burn a place out, take all the wood out, and then just rebuild it because the block is still there, right? Or the stone or whatever. So
brick and stuff, old
different type of construction that really lends itself to that. So
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, that's the question there. Now next is it's all up to you. So you have to come up with a question for our next guest, which I said was Nick Peppard. And yeah, just what question do you have for him? It can be something that either you had when you were first starting, that you still have, or that you just want to ask him and get his answer on. And we will ask.
No, Corley's was a good one. He made me think differently to what my question was going to be. So
yeah,
I guess for Nick, I would say, what's next for him? Right? What's after he's done? Because this is something you're never out of, right? For me, I mean, in a few years when I decide to hang up the keys and try to not travel as much as I do, I'm still gonna, I'm part of Illinois Fire Service Institute. I can go there and teach. It's only 100 miles from the house. I've got people that want me to consult already, whether it's with a dealership or an end user, to do some stuff with them. So I don't think I'm ever going to get out of it. It's just a matter of changing the pattern of what I'm doing, to be able to do that. So for him, where's he see next for him? And that's something a lot of people don't think about. If you told me, 38 years ago when I started working in the industry that I'd be in the twilight years, I'd be like, nah, you're kidding. I hope I make it to then, to do that. But, for me, I was extremely fortunate that I have about 4 or 5 mentors that really took me under their wing and taught me a lot, taught me how to interact with people. Both my grandparents were businessmen. My dad was an engineer, so a mechanical engineer. So I guess, I guess I took a little bit of everything. My one grandfather was a carpenter, and then the other one was a butcher. So, everybody did something with their hands, and that's something that I continued to do. But one of my things is always treat people like you want to be treated. Put yourself in their position. And I'll do that a lot of times where I'll say, hey, what would you do if you were in my position with a problem or something like that too?
Yeah.
How would you make it better? And what can you do to do that? And go out of your way to do something for someone. I was just with a gentleman over in Bowles, Missouri, Ben Hutchins, and he posted something because I went and visited him because he had a problem with a nozzle, and I went and took care of it. It was that simple to do that. But I drove 3 hours to make it happen, but that's 3 hours. That's nothing, right? When you think about it, and I made 17 phone calls in the interim of it to take care of something else. It's a constant thing where you're always just trying to make it better. And the best thing I think is to step back some days and look at it and say, wow, what have I accomplished, right? And my biggest thing my entire career has always been, if I have more than 5 bad days somewhere, I'm going to start looking for something else to do. And what you make of it, right? Everything is what you make of it. Everybody gets a crap sandwich every once in a while. You just got to make something better out of it. And you got to look at what's the positive or why is someone doing what they're doing to me, especially the younger firefighters are constantly always getting pushed down. Right? Or, hey, you don't know anything, kid. Well, they do. And taking that and looking at the best in everyone, I think is a big part of it. What can you do, to your department, and how do you fit in, and how do you make it better and become a part of the team? You can't expect on the first day to be the A team, right? You're down there with F Troop, and you got to work your way up to be the best part of the team to make it better. And find out where you land, right? So that's a big part of it. And it's funny. I've said this before, where, you know, the department I'm on now, they made me, you know, like I said, 40 years in the fire service, and they're like, yeah, you're going to be a probie for 6 months. And I was like, what? Okay. It was cool. I learned so much about how different they were, what they did differently that helped me. And, you know, you're never too old to learn, I think is the biggest thing, or you're never too young to gain more knowledge and carry it with you. We're all basically an existence of all the things that we've learned, right? That's what we pass on, the stuff that we learned that you think is right. And it might be right for you, but it's not right for someone else. But again, vet it out to see what it is. And I think timing. I think the biggest thing is timing. Believe me, I've had some great damn ideas, and I threw them out there, and it was like, man, that was the wrong time, right? So, but a year later, it was like, wow, that's the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah,
and that's huge to be able to figure out the right time, the right delivery, the right everything, and get out there and put it all together, I guess is the best way to put it. So
yeah, have goals and have a positive mindset.
Yeah,
you gotta strive for those goals.
And that's you got to have drive, and you got to have goals to want to get out there. Believe me, I get up every day being like, holy crap, I get to make a difference, right? That's the huge thing. And it doesn't matter where I am. You know, I get up and I look for something to do to make it better. And it's that whole compilation that comes together that makes it better.
Yeah, I mean, if you get up and you have a shitty attitude, you're gonna be pissed off all day. But you get up with a good attitude, you're gonna have a good day. So
yep.
Always strive for that good day.
It is, and you know, you unfortunate or not, I guess fortunately, you're surrounded by a group of, whether it's two more guys on a 3-man engine crew or whatever it may be, or a 3-man crew or 10 guys in the department, that one guy could be having a bad day, but everybody else brings him up, or he brings everybody down. Right? You're the only person that can create your own, attitude to want to go out and make it better. So
sure.
Awesome. Yep. Cool. Yeah, that wraps up all the questions that we have for you. I mean, we really appreciate you coming on and taking the time out of your busy schedule and traveling to come on here. The last part is what we call a kitchen table, which is just kind of anything that you want to touch on, from the podcast a little bit more, any shout outs you have for maybe conferences, trainings, things with business, whatever it may be. Last thing you want to throw in here before we wrap it up, it's all yours.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, I'm on the road right now for the Jimmy Ellis training weekend. That's a near and dear one, as I said earlier, that, Jimmy was a close friend, and it was a tragedy that he passed away, and here to make it hopefully better for his kids and his family, to be a part of it. I even drove to the funeral all the way from Elkhart and back, because I was doing in-service training for a couple of our new hires, and I'm like, guys, I got to go do this, and they understood it, and it was good, but I guess again, as it's always, I think the biggest thing is take the picture. I hear more and more people say that now, and it really doesn't resonate with me, but you never know what tomorrow will bring, right? And make the best out of today. It's funny, I remember moving to the Midwest, I had, when I was in an inside position, and you'd have a guy that wouldn't show up on Friday. And he was like, well, I can get by on 4 days. I don't need the 5th day. And I was like, well, then I guess I don't need you. Right. So it's a two-way street, and give it 100% all the time. When things go bad, people, bad things happen, and you got to be alert, and you got to be aware of your surroundings. And, for the younger firefighters, learn from your superiors and your mentors, and find someone that you feel is a mentor, and ride their coattails, because they're going to teach you a lot. That's like I said earlier, that was the biggest thing for me, was to have those mentors. And on my 50th birthday, 4 of them were able to be at my birthday party, and that was a wonderful thing, to be able to do that. And it was awesome. And one of them was my uncle, that he owned a business, and I worked for him when I was very young. So it's that ability to let them know that you appreciate what they did for you, but also continue to learn from them and grow. That's the biggest thing, especially. And it's going to go by in a blink of an eye.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. Like I said, I'm approaching 60, and it's just like, holy crap. I always thought that was old, and here I am. Right. Yeah. So you gotta get out there and make the best of it, and
absolutely,
and look back and reflect and enjoy what you've done, and then continue to build on it. So
sure.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you for coming on the podcast. Thank you everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed and learned something. I know we sure as hell did. And yeah, it's been great. Again, can't thank you enough. Can't thank everybody. Don't forget to send in questions. And yeah, as always, don't be a shitbag.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. Don't be a shitbag.
Leave it better than you found it.